Chapter 22. Joyce popped back to the golf club. She knew all she needed from there, and it would only take a couple of minutes. She walked back to her car with a piece of paper in her hand. It was the piece of paper that might help her, might not. Only time would tell. She inputted an address in her satnav. It would take 4 minutes, the device told her. At the speeds she drove at, Joyce placed a bet with herself that it would take her less than 3. She was right. The house looked like it had been emptied, but Joyce had been inside enough homes belonging to single men to know that was the way they operated. No interior design flair, just throw something up and hope for the best. She approached the front door, pushed her boobs up to the top of her bra, and pulled her vest top down so the aforementioned boobs were on display. She never knew what charms she might need. Joyce had prepared all manner of incentives for the man behind this door. Joyce knocked and waited. She ran over the possibilities in her mind, deciding on what best to start with, money or sex. One would open the door, but which would seal the deal? The door opened. "Johnny Blorton?" she asked.
"Depends who's asking. I've had enough unwelcome visitors recently."
"I'm asking, Johnny."
"Who are you?"
"Let me in, and I'll tell you who I am and what I'm doing here," Joyce replied, checking in her handbag to ensure that the gun was still there. No reason for it not to be, just ensuring that she had that base covered too. She felt the coldness of the steel, and a tingle ran up and down her spine. She loved situations like this. The nitty-gritty, she called it. The time when you sorted out those who were willing to do anything for success from those who talked about it, but when they faced success, just backed away. He walked back into the property without saying a word. She followed. Johnny picked up a golf club out of his bag that was propped up against the banisters at the bottom of the stairs. He turned left into the sitting room, grabbed a single seat, and motioned to her to choose one of the others available. A sofa and a seat that was identical to the one he had chosen. She went for the one the same as his.
"What do you want?" he asked.
Joyce sat opposite with her hand inside her handbag. "I have a proposition for you," she said in a low voice, looking down at her ample bosom, fluttering her eyelids. She knew he was watching her chest heave up and down. Joyce had a way with men of all ages. They couldn't help themselves. She had always put it down to the fact that she appeared fragile, but that was all an act.
"Shoot,"
he said, not realizing the relevance of his words. "You already know that Mark McManus is dead?"
"Yes, that's what I meant by unwelcome visitors."
"And I know that the police have spoken to you about him." "Well, why don't you tell the police that it was you that killed him?"
"Where do I start with that one? The fact that I didn't kill him? The fact that I'd be locked up? What's in it for me?"
"Well, that depends entirely on what you want in exchange for it," Joyce uttered, in a low voice designed to be sexy. She wasn't sure whether the message got through, so she looked again at her breasts, knowing that Johnny's eyes were tracking the same piece of flesh as she was.
"Do you think I'll confess to murder because you'll sleep with me? Is that what you're hinting at?" Johnny asked, still not able to take his eyes off her.
His grip on the golf club had become weaker. She could see that too. "Well, that might be a good place to start, don't you think? I can help you with a defense too. Mark attacked you. I can tell the police that he has been known to attack others in the past. This time, in self-defense, you hit him. You protected yourself. And then you panicked, drove off, not thinking that the police would believe you. We can talk it over in bed if that works for you."
"Sex with you isn't going to make me confess to a murder I didn't commit. What if the police don't buy the story? I've already told them something else. I'm sure you've done the same."
There's more to this. The person who actually did kill him is actually due to receive a huge sum of cash very soon. I think that they will reward you handsomely, in the hundreds of thousands. Not a bad exchange for a few years in prison, I'd bet. Have you ever seen what £100,000 looks like in notes?
No.
I have. It's an impressive sight. Once you've seen it, the world never feels the same again. You become a slave to the money.
And do I really want that in my future? Get out of here! Johnny shouted, while raising the golf club above his head with his right hand. The left hand was wrapped around Joyce's right arm and handbag. He rushed her to the front door and pushed her out before she could gain access to her handbag. Joyce knocked on the front door a couple more times, but there was no response. She checked her hair in the reflection of the glass and headed out into the street. As she looked right, Joyce swore under her breath. It was the last person she wanted to meet.